All right, welcome back in. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning, 8 a.m., Monday, November 3rd, right here on Jocks. We'll continue with your feedback on Auburn firing Hugh Freeze. Auburn 4-5, DJ Durkin going to be the interim. And I've said it before, people who have listened to me for a long time or listened to this show, Greg, I think you're in the same boat with me. I don't ever like to see coaches fired midseason. Now, my tone on this has changed a little bit because of what's available to the kids now. You can hit the portal immediately. You're getting paid a lot of money. It's not the same as it was when I played, when you played. But I'll still say you don't get a lot of opportunities to play in football games. You just don't. I don't care if you're in the portal moving from school to school. I don't care if you're a five-star recruit, if you're a walk-on. You just don't get a lot of chances at it. It should be fun. It should be some of the coolest things you do in your life. It's not going to be as cool for these guys the rest of the year. There's distractions. There's conversations. There's imagine the people in their ear now when you got an interim head coach and the head coach just got fired, whether it's agents, high school coaches, handlers, parents, friends, whatever it is, all these assistants from other schools that are already reaching out to them. That takes away from some of what should be an incredible experience. And I'm not just saying it because it's Auburn. That's at a lot of schools. That's what it should be. The coaches are going to have one foot out the door. It's understandable. I'm not pointing fingers. I'm not mad at them. I get it. They're not promised anything by Auburn down the road. So, I speak to this from experience. You get less reps. You get less coaching. You get less film. Like those guys are just it's not to the extent that it once was. It won't be. Now, DJ, I think, will try to hold guys accountable. I think he will do a good job as the interim. I think if you sit down and have a conversation with DJ Durkin, I think you'll understand that. But it's just hard at this point. And moving forward, you wonder like what's realistic the rest of the way through. Now you get a Vanderbilt team that parts of what they do, I don't want to say we're exposed, but shown that maybe you can have some success against. And Mercer should be a win. Could get you to 5. Can you get Vander, Alabama, and get to a bowl game? I mean, that's it. Not going to be easy. Going to be tough. Offensively, interested to hear what DJ says in the coming days about how things are going to be handled. But defensively, they should be able to keep them in every game moving forward. And I think you probably got to get the next 2 if you're going to get them. But nonetheless, it's not going to be as an enjoyable ride for these kids the rest of the way through.
It's tough, really tough, and you hate it. Going through a coaching change myself. When Shula was let go, it wasn't fun, and we sat and twisted in the wind for 6 weeks before we knew who our head coach was going to be. Ultimately, it ended up working out great, but this whole 72-hour stuff that they have nowadays is a little bit different back then. So I'll be curious to see where it goes. I think it's pretty obvious where I would go if I were Auburn. I would make this job, I would close this job now, and I wouldn't do it publicly. I would do it behind closed doors, but I would go and I would call John Summerall right now. And I would go and get him and try to get him before other jobs come available. Because the second other jobs come available and or other candidates end up taking other places, and if I'm Summerall, I'd slow play it. I would. I would slow play it in a heartbeat because I think that I'm going to be in the mix at maybe LSU. I'm going to be in the mix at other places if other jobs come open. So if I were him, I'd probably slow play it. But if I'm Auburn, I make that call and I try my very hardest to get that done and get it done now. Not sure it'll work, but that would be where I would start, and I would try to accelerate the process.
All right, so a couple of you chiming in via Twitter. DJ tweets in at Mac and Cube. Guys, is it just me or did Hughes seem like Coach Klein without his playbook, parentheses, the water boy, during his time at Auburn? It was weird. Like, we know you can coach better than this. What happened? I agree with what Greg said earlier. I don't think that a lot of the fire, a lot of the intensity that had been there previously was there. And I know Hugh outwardly doesn't come across that way, but he had it in the past. It has been present before. I didn't see a lot of that recently. And I do think that maybe either complacency or stubbornness played a part in some of the offense's failures. There has to be some adaptation. There has to be some addition. There has to be some addition by subtraction at certain points in times. Things got to morph and change, G-Mac. When you watch that thing, it was very stagnant Saturday night pre-snap. I did think that it did some things from a formation standpoint that helped a little bit at times. But I mean, you come out late in the first half and you run counter. You run counter again. You hadn't run it much in the game, and it's like, okay, here we go. We're hitting it, and then you run it for the third time in a row, and it's like, I understand the whole if it ain't broke, don't fix it, but it's like you're also in the red zone. You're running into the boundary. Like you got to build off that, and you got to do something else off of it at that point. And then the play calling with an opportunity to get points on the board there late just seemed insufficient. It's hard for me to put my finger on exactly why it was as bad as it was. You can point to quarterback, but as we discussed in the first segment of the show, your quarterbacks are having the same problems. When the room has a problem, I don't think it can be as much on the individuals. I'll say this. I want to get your thoughts on this, Greg, and you guys can give me yours too. You can chime in, 800-239-9569, tweet in at Mac and Cube. We were there 2 weeks ago from Missouri, and I think I heard this 5 or 6 times. Over the weekend, be it meetings, in person, before the game, interviews during the game, we heard this multiple times. Putting the guy in to find a spark. We got to find a spark. We need this guy to come in. We just need a spark. I personally believe that sparks are created by execution. Because when a play is executed properly, it shouldn't matter as much who is in as far as your opportunity to have success. Now, if we run quarterback counter and it's you and Lamar Jackson, like obviously one of those is going to give us different benefits of what that play's possible of doing. But I don't think that just a guy in a game all of a sudden creates all these new things and everybody's more energized and all of a sudden turn it into Quentin Nelson and Randy Moss. Like that, I don't think that's real. Like you execute plays, that's what creates a spark. And then like throwing the ball to Cam Coleman or throwing the ball to a guy that's 5'6", 180 that has a 20-inch vertical, they're capable of doing different things. So yeah, Cam Coleman can give you a spark in a different way, but the play's got to be executed before it gives you a spark. So I grew very tired and very weary of hearing that phrasing around why things were being done. Like I just don't think you can throw a guy in a game and all of a sudden it's like, oh, here comes the energy, here comes the positivity. I don't believe in that. Am I wrong for not believing in that?
No, I don't think you're wrong for that. I think there's something there when it comes with that. I think when you look at just the, hey, I'll find a spark, it's desperation mode at that point. You're acknowledging desperation. And it doesn't mean that that's a bad thing. Like, for example, Nick Saban pulled the plug on Jalen Hurts in the national championship game. Why? Desperation mode, man. Like, your back's against the wall. You're down a couple scores in the natty, and you haven't moved the ball offensively very well for a couple of weeks. Desperation mode. We got nothing to lose. Like, let's go. So, make the quarterback change. Could blow up in remarkable fashion. It could go down as one of the great coaching moves of your career. So, I mean, desperation mode does amazing things to some folks. I'll be really curious. I don't know how you feel about it, but I'll be really curious to see what Auburn looks like from this point forward. Like, is it a better offensive performance? Because I don't think it's about personnel. We know that. I think quarterback is very limited. But I don't think it's about personnel. I think it was about execution. I mean, guys were open. There's only so much a coach can do. Like, your job as an offensive coach to get guys open. If the guy doesn't hit them or throw it or execute, what can you do? It's your job to identify the players that can execute. Sure, talent evaluation is important, but that's the biggest key, in my opinion. I don't know if you see it similarly.
That's where I am. And I mean, I do think that the way certain kids play, the way certain guys play, their demeanor on the field, their body language, yeah, can that give you a little extra? And can other guys feed off of that? Sure, I believe that. But I just still believe that the play was most likely executed properly for them to be able to come in and have some success with what they were doing. And that's just kind of – that's why you got to the point that it did. Louis DeArmond tweets into the show, at Mac and Cube, is this year a one-off or is this now college football? We have 4 weeks left before championship Saturday, and we are playing what do you think about so-and-so at 15 schools. This is not good for the sport. Is it good for the sport, Greg?
Yeah, I think it's pretty good for the sport. A lot of people paying attention. when coaches get fired, I have to hop on and do like an immediate rapid reaction video, and Napier's did like 150,000, 100,000 for Brian Kelly. It will be 100,000 for Auburn. Like, people care. Anything that gets people to consume college football content is a good thing, I think, overall for the sport, and it gives you a sense of optimism. Like, why do you think people are watching those videos? Why do you think people are listening? Why is Jocks going live on the air when Auburn fires a head coach? Because they want to one, understand the why, and two, they want to have a sliver of optimism for what's next. So I don't think it's bad for the sport at all. I hate it. I don't think it's a good look, but as far as consumption and consumability and excitement, I don't think it's a bad thing at all.
All right, let's go to the phones, 800-239-9569. If you'd like to join the show, you can do that there on the Higginbotham hotline. We'll go to Rich in Albertville. Welcome in, Rich.
What's up, guys? How are you?
Doing well, thanks.
What's happening?
Good. Hey, Cole, I wish I could have watched you, but unfortunately I'm one of the ones that has YouTube TV, and I was on the road, so I had to listen to the radio. I'm sure you did a great job, though.
I doubt it, but thank you.
How? Let me ask you this: all I heard about was the student fan base staying over to boo, which I don't agree booing at the players. They're just in a bad spot. Maybe the coach, but not the players. Was it as bad as what I heard on some of the podcasts?
I didn't hear that. Now, I was in the other corner of the stadium, essentially, and we're packing up our stuff, getting ready to go right as the game ends like that. So I don't know how bad it was. People who I trust that were down there said it wasn't good. So I think some of that's gonna depend on who you trust and what they think. But I mean, the fact that it was happening at all obviously is not good.
Yeah. Well, I called last week and I said that Auburn wouldn't beat Kentucky because they can't score 14 or 17 points. Lo and behold, to me, they can't even score 7 against that game. If it wouldn't have been for a defensive play, they wouldn't even got that. But in my honest opinion, I mean, we're a week late. That should have been done after the Arkansas game. I mean, they were lucky to scrape by with Arkansas, this, that, and the other. But I heard a great point real quickly, that there are so many people looking for coaches. Why not keep Durkin and just pay $2 million for a top flight OC, and maybe the turnaround won't be as bad. And you keep all your administrators intact, like Kenyatta Watson and Redmond, who are huge from a recruiting standpoint.
Well, I think you're going to look at it as parts of that regime that were there. You might not want them intact. I think there are certain head coaching candidates that would love to keep DJ Durkin at Auburn. I think there are some that are going to want to clean house no matter what, and everybody that had been there before is going to be out. So I think a lot of that depends on the next individual. I think DJ's done a great job. I think he will get a fair look to potentially be the Auburn head coach. I don't know if he's one of the better candidates or not.
Do you think if a coach came in that DJ would stick around? Because he's going to be.
Depends on who the coach is.
Depends
on who the coach is. It just depends on who the coach is and what the relationship is and what he thinks of that guy, what he believes that guy's going to do for him, not do for him, things of that nature. That's complicated.
Hey, let me ask you this real quick. You're a former player, alumni, and I value what you and Greg say. That's the reason I listen to the show. What was your thoughts, honestly, that you saw from this coaching staff, as far as the standard or the toughness? I mean, you helped. You're part of a team that went through some adversity, and then y'all came out and y'all had some really good years too. And what's your honest opinion on what you saw from Hugh Freeze?
As far as the standard is to win games, compete for championships. They didn't do that. It's a tale of two stories. The offense and the defense are completely different. And, there were some positives with the offense, but the consistency just never seemed to be there. So I would probably I'd probably classify it as confusing more so than anything else. Let's go to Rob and Hoover. Rob, welcome in. How are you today?
I'm good, fellas. How y'all doing this morning?
Doing great, thanks.
What's happening?
So, Cole, you were there. We were there Saturday night. One of the weirdest things about it, the whole situation was strange. But most of the fourth quarter, when we were down 10-3, the energy in the whole stadium and looking at the sideline, it felt like we were down 44-3. And I kept thinking, we're one score away. I mean, this is.
Yeah.
But did you notice how dead the entire stadium was the whole fourth quarter? I mean, hell, we're down one score. You know?
Yeah, it was. I mean, I felt like it began to drift a little bit because the atmosphere was great early. And for the majority of the first half, it was awesome. It felt like a big game. I mean, Tom even mentioned it down on the field before the game. He was like, he goes, because we had not. Well, we had been there for Missouri, but before that, we were there for A&M when Carnell was the interim head coach, and like we were in there 2 hours before kick, and the student section was packed. And he was just like, "This is wild how the energy here with what this team is and." What this game actually means, but the crowd's still showing up and still, into it. But I think that there, like I said, that's why it was eerily similar to that Brian Kelly LSU deal 2 weeks ago, where it kind of just faded, and that momentum continued to build for like, this might not be it inside the stadium. I'll say this, as the game went on, I mean, I think you also got to feel for if the defense doesn't do something, it's not going to matter. I mean, I think that's why you're trying to return that interception late. Now, listen, it's a great play by 22 from Kentucky. That's a true freshman, by the way, to pop that ball loose. Like, it's a hell of a play. But I think that's why the defense tried to extend a little bit. I mean, you go back and look at it, and it should not have to be this way at all. But you could say that defensive gambles sort of told the story of that game. And number one, you had the 3rd and 14 where he completes the pass over on the sideline. How he jumped and caught the ball, still don't know. It's one of the weirdest throws I've seen. The DB jumps a little bit early, misses his timing on the ball, had a chance to intercept it, and Kentucky gets a first down. Then you come down a couple plays later, you try to make a play in the backfield on a screen. You miss the tackle because it's a tough play to make. He ends up, Kendrick Law goes into the end zone and scores. You fast forward to late in the fourth quarter, DJ overloads everything. I mean, it looked like punt return, and he ends up getting to him, causes the incompletion. You get the ball back. So, like, the gambles – sometimes didn't pay off, gave Kentucky some momentum, then did pay off late, gave Auburn the ball back, but it didn't matter because the offense couldn't do anything. So, like, I thought that was a massive part of the game, is that the defense was being aggressive. I felt like knowing we got to do something or else that we don't really have a chance here. And you can't blame them for that. I don't blame them for playing that way. You sort of had to at that point based on the way the game was going and how things appeared to be. So, I mean, either way, you look at it, GMAC, and it was a rough one to watch. So, but if you've got rough floors, we know exactly who you need to call.
Well, Shannara Flooring will get you covered. They'll get those floors replaced with that beautiful CoreTech flooring by Shaw. It's in stock right now. They have 50,000 square feet of it. It's unbelievable. Just the inventory they've been able to put together. All you got to do is just go to fooandyou.com. Know because of the amount of inventory that they've actually put together, they are capable of pushing savings to you between 20 to 40%. And it's deals like that, man, that you got to take advantage of. You got to jump at, because this CoreTech flooring, very sturdy, very durable, comes with a 20 mil wear layer. They also have tons of options for you, regardless of what the look you're going after. So go and check out Foo today at Shannara Flooring by going to fooandyou.com. That's fooandyou.com. You can also give them a call if you'd like by, like I said, fooandyou.com. And if I can get this to load, I will tell you exactly what the number is. There you go, 205-518-6423. That's 205-518-6423.
All right, when we come back, more on Hugh Freeze being out. Your feedback next right here on Jocks. All right, welcome back in. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning, 8:23, Monday, November 3rd, right here on Jocks. We will get to potential candidates for this Auburn job. We will get to who you think should take over this Auburn job as we continue here on the show, 800-239-9569. More on Hugh Freeze being out as the Auburn head football coach. Auburn will begin that search immediately with John Cohen, the athletic director, and other members of that Auburn staff. Before we continue, though, Greg, tell our listeners about Crocker Moving Services.
Well, they're a local company owned by an Iraq War veteran, Eric Crocker. Crocker believes in hiring movers you can trust to complete full background checks and run drug tests on every single employee. These are good guys. You can trust them in your home. That is your whole home packed up move, your company headquarters moved across country, or you just want them to come rearrange your living room. These guys got you covered. They also do deliveries for furniture that you purchase and need to get to your home. So call and visit them online today for a free quote. The website's crockermovingservices.com. That's crockermovingservices.com. Support your veterans by choosing Crocker Moving Services for your next move.
All right, let's go to the phones. Tommy in Auburn wants to chime in. Welcome into the show, Tommy.
Hey, good morning, guys. Cole, I want to ask you a question. I truly believe that Cohen knew 3 games ago that he was going to pull the trigger on Hugh Freeze. I also believe he has a list of who he's going to contact and who he's going to try to get to take this job. I just don't think he would have pulled the trigger until the end of the year unless he had done that. That's number one. Number two is, I hear everyone. Don't get me wrong. I believe he should have been fired. But I heard no one say anything about Austin, the quarterback's coach. He was the quarterback coach for Peyton Thorne, and he's the quarterback coach now. So he has to have some responsibility. And the third thing is, once I say this, I'm going to hang up and listen. John Franklin put Vanderbilt on the map. He's recruited the Southeast, and he recruited the Southeast when he was at Penn State. He have all the contacts. He's a winning coach. He had a mental capacity to keep this roster together. My question is, why is he not one of those at the top of this list? And I'm going to listen. And thank you, guys. I really appreciate your show.
Thank you. James Franklin. I think James Franklin wants to coach. I think he's going to be in the mix for a lot of jobs. James Franklin is difficult to manage in a lot of different ways. He's won a lot. I don't think anybody can deny that. Turn that down, GMAC. I don't know. I don't feel like, based on some of the things that were happening behind the scenes at Penn State, and like you mentioned with some of the difficulties that you may have to manage as the Auburn head coach, that feels like a good marriage. But maybe you think it would work out better than I do.
I mean, I don't see it as much with him. I mean, I think that while he had some success at Vanderbilt, I think he was able to stockpile a roster. I mean, the big thing is the results didn't necessarily reflect tremendous performance. Like, he had a good roster. He was great at putting a roster together, right? Like, we know that. That's what Hugh was. Hugh was good at putting the roster together. I think you need a guy on game day that's an absolute star from an XO standpoint. And that's what you didn't have this last time around. You got to have XO. You got to have a guy that knows how to get to the finish line with one more point than the other. And guess what? Here's the other thing that I think made a lot of people really frustrated with Hugh were the excuses. We're young. We're this. The officials did this. We didn't do this. I think a lot of people grew frustrated with that. I encourage everybody that thinks James Franklin would be a good fit to go listen to his press conference after they lost to UCLA and tell me if that is at all what you're looking for with a head coach at this point. So, no, I cannot endorse that decision. Doesn't mean James Franklin won't get a job. I think he will. It's just I wouldn't want him to get the job that I care most about. You know what I mean? If I were an Auburn fan.
All right, so James Franklin, I just don't believe he's a real candidate for multiple reasons. There, Dusty and Warrior wants to chime in. Welcome in, Dusty.
Hey, good morning, y'all.
Good morning.
First off, I'd like to say, Greg, I totally agree with you 100%. I'd love to have Matt Campbell come down and coach at Auburn, but I don't think that's going to happen. I also don't think we're going to get Summer off. So my question is, Kenny Dillingham, how viable is he a candidate? I'll hang up and listen.
I have not heard his name mentioned. Obviously, has spent time at Auburn before as an assistant, Greg, but have not heard him mentioned for this job.
I don't really know what his situation is. I like Kenny Dillingham. There are some things with Kenny Dillingham's fieriness that I think would, on a bigger stage, people would either love or strongly dislike, but like he's wound up. He's very, very intense. I think he's a great coach. I don't think he's going to leave Arizona State. It's a similar situation to what we just talked about with Rhett Lashley. He has arguably second, third best job in the Big 12, right?
I would probably say third at best.
What would you have 1 and 2? Texas Tech and TCU?
I get confused sometimes with how to actually throw BYU in there, but I think all-encompassing, BYU has a chance to be up there.
Yeah, so those are the
we
top
don't know all
four
the
jobs.
inner workings, but I feel like the inner workings could be pretty good if you know how to work it right.
At BYU or at
Correct.
Arizona
At
State?
BYU. At BYU.
Oh, 100%. BYU is an amazing setup. So I don't disagree with you. Like, I'm fine with those four. I think those four are kind of a cut above in the Big 12 for sure. And I think Auburn's a harder job. And that sounds crazy. Like, this is just a different world that we're living in now, guys. It's not like, oh, I have to get to the SEC to have a chance. It's not like that anymore. I go to the SEC to get my teeth kicked in every week. That's a hard gig. So if I were Kenny Dillingham, I wouldn't mess with Happy. I'm in a good spot. That's where I'd be.
I would agree with that. I'd be with you there. I mean, I just don't. I haven't heard his name pop up. I don't know if he's looking to get out. Doesn't feel like he's a real candidate right now. Wendy in Mobile wants to chime in. Welcome into the show, Wendy.
Good morning. I had a question for y'all. I want to learn more and better understand with what I may or may not be seeing on the field. It just seems so uncanny to me how both of our guys at quarterback at Auburn seem to be glitching, holding on to the ball too long. What are we not seeing on the screen in the TV view? Is it a line problem? Is it people not getting open problem? The execution, I want to learn and understand better about that because I don't know what a coaching change is going to fix there. And I just, with what just happened in a conversation just a moment ago, the excuses versus explanations, when coaches like Hugh Freeze are asked after a loss, multiple losses, and he's answering the questions he's asked, how does it become an excuse, not an explanation? I'm interested in what y'all have to say on that.
I think, Wendy, first off, the excuses become that when the blame is shifted to someone who, in my opinion, wasn't directly involved, and that is a player on the field or a coach that had something to do with calling or designing the play or helping that side of the football execute said plays. Or shifting it to someone who might not have had as much responsibility on said play than some of the other folks did. As far as not being able to let go of the football, some of that we probably can't give you an explanation for. The things that you're not seeing on the screen would be said player's brain and either what they've been coached to see, what they can't physically see. Now, some of that would be like we discussed earlier of when you're getting pressure in the middle of the field or in the middle of the offensive line, immediately there are certain routes you will not be able to see, and that's going to be a problem. You look at how quickly Ashton Daniels left the pocket on the majority of his snaps. There wasn't even an attempt to be able to drop back. It was get the ball and essentially leave a lot of the times. So There are other times though that based on coverage and coverage changes and guys looking like they're going to blitz and then they drop and then they're not in the areas they thought you were going to be in because of what you thought it was going to be pre-snap, that can be confusing and cause problems. So I think some of what you're asking is collective. Um, as far as what you're not seeing, there's always going to be scheme that a lot of us have difficulty deciphering of. We thought it was this coverage. Oh no, they're going to that coverage, or should have blocked it this way. Maybe they missed an assignment over here. All those things can be confusing, Greg, as far as why somebody might not be able to execute things properly.
Yeah, there's not really just a singular, oh, this is why it happened, this is why it went the way it went. It's dependent very much on the play. It's dependent very much on the execution. And ultimately, like, the players have to bear some of the responsibility. And I know that, like, it's frowned upon to ever blame the players, heaven forbid, for not playing well. But the reality is the coaches can only do so much. And if the coaches are sitting there and calling an appropriate play, if the coaches are sitting there and calling a play that could work, should work, a guy's open, and the player doesn't hit him, like, whose fault is it, the coach or the player? I know it's not like a popular, like, oh, well, the coach is an adult. Yeah, well, the players are pros. So I know as a player, like, there were throws that I missed that I still feel bad about. So I guess I don't understand, like, why are we not allowed to acknowledge the fact that the players kind of let Hugh down in some cases? Not all the time. Not all the time at all. I mean, there were some times when Hugh let the players down too. But there were definitely some things that I think could have been done. If Jackson Arnold hits one deep ball against Oklahoma, it might be a different outcome. If Peyton Thorne doesn't throw a pick on an in-breaking route directly to a guy against Oklahoma last year, could have been a totally different outcome. There's a handful of those. And it's unfortunate, it stinks, but it is what it is, and that's just the way the game goes. Like, you shoulder the blame, you share the blame, and you have to have accountability kind of across the board with players and coaches to say, hey, yeah, I got to do better. I got to be better.
Absolutely. All right, we'll continue with some of your feedback, some tweets coming in, still calls out there, text into the show as well, and we'll continue hearing what you have to say about Hugh Freeze being out at Auburn right after this on Jocks. Welcome back in, McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. Appreciate you guys tuning in. Want your feedback on Hugh Freeze being out at Auburn. He's not the only coach fired yesterday. South Carolina fires offensive coordinator Mike Shula. GMAC, was this one that had to take place in your mind?
Was it his fault? If you can't block him, you can't do much offensively, can you?
No. I mean, it's a tough deal there.
It's brutal.
You fire your offensive line coach, and so you're trying to revamp that part of it, and then all of a sudden your offensive line wasn't great anyway. Lenore Steller's been running for his life the majority of the season. This just felt like one that was more to satisfy the fan base, satisfy maybe some of the boosters, just to look like you're trying to make something happen.
Yeah, I mean, I hate it for Mike. He's a good man. But he's operating the whole year with one arm tied behind his back. I mean, there's only so much you can do. I mean, you can't just turn water into wine as a play caller. If you don't have good players at very important positions, you're going to have your hands full. And he has a good player at quarterback. I like his running back. But other than that, man, there's not a lot of guarantees on that roster right now offensively. They have some guys they struggle.
All right, let's go back to the phones. BR is in Vestavia, wants to chime in. Welcome into the show, BR.
What's up, guys? So,
how are you?
I listen to a couple of shows a day, but I call this one to get my ball knowledge. And so I respect you guys more than most of the other shows, which are just kind of gossip and hearsay. So knowing what you guys know, y'all are in the rooms every week. You're on the road. You go to every program. Give me taking everything into account, who your favorite candidate or should be candidate for Auburn. I'd like to hear what y'all think.
Who do you think is the best fit for this job, GMAC?
Well, you're the Auburn guy. Why don't you go first?
I think there are going to be.
Why are you punting that to me?
I think there are going to be multiple candidates for this job that are good, that are going to be brought up. Obviously, John Summerall is going to be brought up. I think he's going to be a good fit. I think he's somebody that's going to be mentioned. I was trying to find somebody's list that they have out there, and like who their list of candidates was, to just kind of see like what people are thinking that they want to be able to come in, or they think are going to be able to get in, like somebody's hot board, I guess, of coaching candidates. I don't think James Franklin is a real candidate. Unfortunately, I do think that Jimbo Fisher is a name that you have to hear and listen to and maybe even discuss, because there is some reality to that. I'm not going to go any further with that, but some folks think that that's one that is viable. Not for me, but I know Jimbo's trying to get back in. It's a pretty big job to try to get back in on, and we saw how things ended last time. I think Eli Drinkwitz would have interest. I think there's going to be interest with Eli Drinkwitz and some of the other SEC jobs that are open. I think that's one that's also feasible. That's a name that people are going to look at. I do think Brent Key is one that has some interest from the Auburn folks that is going to be at least vetted and discussed. It's just one that I look at and say, is he leaving? I personally don't think he would. There's a couple of guys that are at their alma maters right now that people are, saying are going to be candidates for other jobs, are going to leave for other jobs. Those are some of the names that I have heard, some of the names that I know people are talking about. Don't know how different your list would be, Greg.
The problem is, like, a lot of the names, it's just, I think now more than ever, fit matters. Like, I hate that it does. I really do. I hate it. But you got to generate support. You got to raise money. You got to have guys that are going to kind of invoke some excitement within the fan base. I mean, that to me is just so important now, probably more so than ever before. If I were Auburn, I'd take a good long look at John Summerall at Tulane. He'd be my number one. If he is open, let's go right now. The reality is, I don't know if Eli is going to leave Missouri for Auburn. I think he would have an interest, But I think if he's going to leave, he's going to leave for a place that has national championships regularly. So, like, for example, I think Eli's in the mix at LSU. Eli is obviously in the mix at Florida. I don't think he would take Auburn over those two. And he might be at the top of the list for both. I've heard a lot of people talk about, well, go and get Glenn Schumann. I like Glenn Schumann a lot. I do. I think he's a good coach. He's from the Saban Smart tree. He's been around. I said earlier, I think having a guy with head coaching experience is preferred in today's day and age because of all the things that come with being a head coach now. It's not like back in the day where it's like, oh, I just got to coach ball. Like, you got to be a politician. You really do in some ways. The Jimbo Fisher hire, that one makes no sense to me personally. Doesn't mean I don't think Jimbo can coach. I think he can. That one would not be the direction that I'd head. But it's amazing to me that we're not talking about a guy like Clark Lee. Like, why would you not at least reach out to Clark Lee and just gauge interest, see what he thinks? The guy has done a tremendous job at Vandy. He's created a chip on the shoulder type of program, which I think aligns well with Auburn. And I just think from a fit standpoint, he'd fit well. He's not the most charismatic guy on planet Earth, but he has a plan. He's won in the league, and he's created a culture at Auburn that is very, or created a culture at Vanderbilt that's very like us against the world. We're the misfits. And I think that would play well at a place like Auburn. Like, I think that would work well as opposed to, going and getting a coach that has like a superiority. Like, go and get a coach that's going to fight everybody. I think that's a good fit.
Do you think he is going to be looking to get out, wants to get out?
I don't think he's necessarily looking to get out, but I think it's, if not now, then when with Clark Lee. And that's because he's about to lose his quarterback. And that is going to be a really difficult guy to replace. You know what I mean?
It's fair. And he does a lot. And he had a great game over the weekend, even though they lost. But I just think about what they've built and how they've sort of shifted the mindset. And would he immediately now look at, okay, we got this thing kind of going, and we have this new formula as to how we're going to be able to stack wins, even though losing quarterback, can we find a guy to come in, run this system, run this offense in a similar fashion and be able to have some of the same success? I don't know. He's one of those guys like Brent Key. Like, is he going to leave the place that's home for him for another job? A lot of guys would. A lot of guys wouldn't. I don't know where Clark. That's the other thing is, like, Clark's a thinker, man. Like, he's not like old school meathead football guy. I mean, he's very well thought out. He's just very studious with everything that he does. And so yeah. I think it's hard for me to think that he would do things that a lot of other coaches would, because he doesn't really think that way. He doesn't think in a similar fashion. So Chuck and Moody.
I also think too, though, having a talent evaluation guy now is very important. And the problem that I have, though, with a guy like Clark, with a guy like Matt Campbell at Auburn, and this is only at a few other places. This is at a few places now, so it's not exclusive to Auburn. I'm talking about just kind of generally speaking. What was one of the biggest frustrations that Auburn fans had with Brian Harsin?
He wasn't relatable. He did. Well, I'm sorry. Wait. Stop. He didn't score more points in the second half than the first half.
Well, other than that, that's an absolute killer. You can't overcome that.
Can't do it.
No, the fact that he was not a guy that was centering his attention around recruiting rankings. He wanted the right guy. He wanted the guy that fit him and them and their culture. That's, I think, something you need to take into account here. For example, let me give you an example, actually. If Haynes King had decided to transfer from Texas A&M to Auburn, what would the reaction have been? A lot of silence
Exactly.
I'm confused. 2 Texas A&M over Auburn?
No, had he transferred after his tenure at Texas A&M, had Haynes King transferred from Texas A&M to Auburn, what would the reaction have been? Why are we getting him? He can't play. We saw. I mean,
100%.
he's no good. Instead, he goes to Georgia Tech and has become one of the better quarterbacks in college football for what they are. So I think, and who was the best player on Auburn's team last year?
Jarquez Hunter.
Jarquez Hunter. How many stars did Jarquez Hunter have when Brian Harsin decided to recruit him out of Philadelphia, Mississippi off a baseball field? 2.
Not many.
And it was a generous 2. People were very frustrated with Brian Harsin's recruiting. And if you go and want to hire a guy like Clark Lee, you go and want to hire a guy like Brent Key, you go and want to hire a guy like Matt Campbell, you got to be comfortable not playing the recruiting game. Like, you have to just trust their talent evaluation. Because if you look at Vanderbilt's talent evaluation, they've done a tremendous job in identifying guys that fit and guys that align with them culturally. But guess what? Those guys aren't all going to have 4 and 5 stars. A lot of those guys are going to have like 1 star or 0 stars, or they're going to come out of JUCO and they will have played 3 positions in JUCO. So I just think that you need to understand. You got to decide, if you are Auburn, do you want the guy that's going to go after the 4 and 5 star guys that might have ebbs and flows in performance but have a higher ceiling? Or do you want to create a culture? And a culture that's going to create wins because of the accountability and the anger that team plays with on a week-in, week-out basis. Now, is Vandy capable of winning a national championship with their current personnel? Probably not. But I can promise you this, you don't want to play them. Is Georgia Tech capable of winning a national championship right now with their current personnel? Probably not. But guess what? They're a beast to play on a week-to-week basis. Iowa State might not be able to have the personnel to go and win at the highest levels of the sport, but I can promise you this, they're going to be where they need to be, and they're going to be coached the way they're supposed to be coached. And they're going to have good buy-in from their players. So I think you just got to decide. If you want to get caught up in the recruiting world like you did with Harsin, and you're sitting there saying, well, why does Georgia have this 5-star? Why does Bama have this 4-star? Why does Florida have this 4-star? Or if you want to just let your coach and evaluate, and then I don't know the answer to that, by the way, but I think there's something to be said about that, because I can remember vividly people in this state, both Alabama and Auburn, making fun of players, and in Louisiana, by the way, making fun of players that had 3 stars that signed with Alabama, and Alabama's coaching staff was thrilled, and now that guy is giving Alabama's defensive front really quality minutes. But he had 3 stars, so he clearly can't play. We get way too wrapped up in the recruiting rankings, and if you want to go and hire a process-oriented developmental coach, which is where I think it would be smart for a lot of teams to go, then you can't worry about what 247 and On3 say about your recruiting class.
All right, we'll be back with more Mac and Cube next. Welcome back in. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. It is Monday, November 3rd, right here on Jocks. One more hour to go, and we will continue the conversation around Hugh Freeze's exit at Auburn. We'll get to a couple other games. Some massive injury news around college football we need to get to as well. But first, I'll tell you about Game Day Men's Health. If you're feeling on edge, lacking energy, lacking sleep, Game Day Men's Health wants to help you now. Go to GameDayMen'sHealth.com today. Sign up for the free consultation. With that free consultation, free PSA test, free testosterone test, all your baseline. They're going to let you know where your health is and how they can help you. Weight loss programs, testosterone replacement, the peptides are in stock. All there at Game Day Men's Health. Go to GameDayMen'sHealth.com today. Minimal upfront cost for the programs they start, and you can get going there now.